All right. Angry Bears Fan Podcast, episode 18. This is number 2 as a monetized channel. I'm Sean. This is my bud, Tom. Like the video, subscribe, share, comment, all of that, please. And thank you. We appreciate everybody who's been tuning in. We got 700 to 1,500 weekly viewers on our podcast and most of our videos. So I'm really grateful and appreciate everybody who's tuning in for that.
Yes, as Sean said, thank you guys very much. This doesn't happen without your support. Even the stuff on Facebook, TikTok. I've been posting a lot of TikToks lately, and then we go ahead and we post them on the Angry Bears Fan Podcast TikTok. Those have been getting some views, as well as the Facebook views. So we really do appreciate it. Everybody out there that's supporting us by following, commenting, liking, subscribing definitely helps. So thank you guys very much for helping us grow this channel. I guess we can get right into it though.
Eventful week at the Combine. Some players shined. Anthony Richardson really put on a show that bodes well for us, especially if we're trading back twice. A lot of people got tagged that we might have been interested in.
There's a few that weren't tagged too that we can dive into a little bit. Pardon me. But as you were saying, some people were tagged. It was a very eventful combine. A little bit later, we'll do a segment where I have my 10 prospects that just kind of shine to me at the combine that I would pick if I were the Chicago Bears, not necessarily in the first round. This is kind of throughout the draft kind of thing. I have a few people that are rounds 1 through 6, just depending on how far they do trade back, because they will trade back. But you were mentioning the tag. So tag deadline, for everybody that doesn't know, was just recently. It was on
Tuesday.
The 7th. It was yesterday, the 7th at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. There was quite a few, people of note that did get tagged. The 3 big running backs that were going to hit free agency, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard, all got slapped with the tag. Sean, that is a big kick in the nuts for Bears fans that wanted Saquon Barkley. The Giants got the deal done with Danny Dimes at the 25th hour, allowing them to tag Saquon Barkley. Are you disappointed in that?
Not really. I would have liked to have Saquon, but I didn't. Like I said, I didn't think he was going to make or break us. I mean, it would have been nice to have, but I just think running back's not a position that puts you over the top anymore. So, like I said, I would have liked to have had them. We probably had the money to spend to get him, but I don't. It's not really my concern right now. I've always been saying I'd be fine if we ended up re-signing David Montgomery and running it back with those 2 guys if we get Justin some help at wide receiver and tight end.
Well, there are reports out there saying that David Montgomery's played his last, down as a Chicago Bear. They don't think they're bringing him back. I told you last week, or it was the week before, it was one of those 2 weeks. I think it was last week. I said I don't think David Montgomery's coming back either. But anything's possible, I guess. I really think that they look to address that in the draft as a possibility. A couple of people that weren't tagged that we saw were Orlando Brown Jr., tackle from the Kansas City Chiefs,
yes,
as well as Juwan Taylor, right tackle from Jacksonville.
Yeah, we talked about him today.
Yes, we did. There's a lot of scheme fits in terms of offensive linemen. Me personally, after kind of watching Orlando Brown Jr., I would be on the fence. I know he's LT number 1 in free agency, but I don't think he's a scheme fit for our zone scheme. You got to be really athletic as a tackle in order to be successful, especially in the run game, and he just doesn't have it. He's a really good pass blocker, but it's, the run blocking too is also a huge aspect of it, especially in the RPO game. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the Orlando Brown Jr., Juwan Taylor, Mike McGlinchey, Caleb McGarry?
If I had to say one, I'd probably say McGlinchey. I think he's the best. As like you're talking about scheme fit wise, I just think he plays right tackle. Braxton Jones played left tackle all year. So it'd probably be easiest for the team if somebody came in and he played right tackle. I'm not saying Braxton can't be moved or would be unwilling to move. I think it just would be less disruption to the team, and O-line is like synergy, and these guys got to be working together. So any kind of hiccups we can avoid. So that I would say McGlinchey or maybe McGrary, even that's my 1 and 2. Juwan James, I don't know. He had really, you were reading off his stats, he had really good. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of Jags games, but I watch, and as an offensive lineman, I pay attention to the offensive line. He really never popped that much for me.
He's a young kid too. He's 25,
Yeah.
but you're always a big proponent of availability.
Yeah.
Mike McGlinchey over his career has had some injuries. He missed half a season a couple of years ago. He played 47% of the offensive snaps the 2 years before that. There has been some injury concern here and there. He did play a full healthy season this last season. Juwan James, as you mentioned, he's been in the league 4 years, has not missed a snap, has not missed a game.
That was impressive.
Same thing with Caleb McGarry. He's very available. I know he's maybe missed a couple of games over his career, but he has been very reliable for that offensive lineman for the Atlanta Falcons. Me personally, I take a look at it. I like Mike McGlinchey. Throughout this entire podcast, we've kind of just shuffled our offensive line, who we would want to take. Mike McGlinchey was definitely up there on my list, but taking a look at just this zone scheme fit, I know we got a lot of money to spend, but at the same time, we have a lot of positions to fill. So if I can get somebody who's kind of the ceiling is Mike McGlinchey and the floor is, just a regular Joe Schmo that's serviceable, I would probably lean towards a Caleb McGarry type, only because he is very athletic at that right tackle position. He's able to swing his hips, get that outside leverage on a defensive end to push him down for that outside zone scheme. Those RPOs will be dangerous. I'm not too sure about Juwan James because they do I guess Doug Peterson's offense this past offseason was kind of tailored to a little bit of a zone scheme, but most of the time Trevor Lawrence is a pocket quarterback. He's a pocket passer. So there hasn't been a lot of, trying to reach that outside of a defensive end. So for that reason and that reason alone, Caleb McGarry is my number 1 offensive lineman that I want the Bears to go after. Of course, at tackle, there's Ben Pocic, or Pocic, however you say his last name. He's a center interior lineman, and Ben Powers. He's an interior offensive lineman guard from Baltimore. So if I had to start from the offensive line going down, I'd probably target McGarry, and then Pocic, because Sam Mustipher's gone. He's terrible. He's god-awful.
Yeah, well, didn't they say, I think today they said that he was getting cut, right?
Yeah, he's the worst fucking center I've ever seen. And then I want them to sign Ben Powers. I think Ben Powers, if they just get a tackle and Ben Powers, I'd be okay, because we'll talk about it next week, once our mock drafts come out, where we want the Bears to pick, because there's a couple of interior offensive linemen that are pretty good fits, I think, in the Bears scheme. I know you have a couple of them on your list. I have a couple of them on my list. So if they're just getting Ben Powers and a tackle, whether it be McGlinchey or McGarry or James, I'd be okay, as long as they get one of those 3 guys. But realistically, it's going to be tough, because I really want Ryan Poles to hit. I think everybody wants Ryan Poles to hit this out of the park. Yeah. But it's also very hard to be in his shoes, because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Talent evaluation, scheme fit, stuff like that. That takes a lot of homework. I know we're internet GMs, we're couch GMs, but that's why he gets paid the big bucks to do what he does. We can only just analyze and criticize. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, he's in a good spot. I mean, we need everything, so I just think he should be picking best available player till like the 3rd round, 4th round. Honestly, unless it's a quarterback, or like I said, unless we fill a bunch of holes on the offensive line, and you kind of pass on those guys. But no player he could pick, as long as they're worth, they're not a bust. Like, if he picks a wide receiver, we need one. If he picks a corner, we need one. A linebacker, we need one. DN, DT, we need one. Any position on the line, we need one. If we don't sign David Montgomery, we need a running back as well. So it's like, he's gonna. I guess we're gonna get a good judge of a good judgment on what his ability to evaluate talent is. Sometimes a lot of guys are forced in a position where like, oh, I got to take a wide receiver. I got to take a tight end. I got to take an offensive lineman. Like he doesn't have to take anybody. He can fall back. He can trade back if he feels like it. But yeah, we will get a good judgment on what his ability to sniff out the studs. He had a pretty good draft last year. I've said a bunch of times I did want Pickens. I really did. I guess that would have cost us Brisker or Gordon. But I stand by. I think we could have used him because then we never would have traded the second for Claypool. But the rest of the guys, Braxton Jones, Kyle Gordon, Jack Sanborn, Brisker, that other rookie corner we got, Jones, they played pretty well.
They did.
Can't hate on the draft too much. They all look like they're going to be able to be starters in the NFL. They're not cornerstones or Pro Bowlers yet, but it puts us in a good position where we're not super desperate, but he just has to pick best available, I think. I'm like I said, if we fall back to 7 and Jalen Carter's there, I'd say take him. Like, I don't care if he's a street racer.
You bring up a good point because since there are so many holes in this roster, and it's always been a Bears curse in GMs previously where, okay, we need this, or this position. So we're going to take Kevin White. We're going to take,
Leonard Floyd.
Well, yeah, there you go. Leonard Floyd, or who was the other one? Shea McClellan. That's the thing is that realistically, you bring up the point of there's so many holes in this roster. Best available player is probably the way to go for, like you said, the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, until then you start.
As long as it's not a quarterback, I don't see why not. That can't hurt. To have the most talent, the best talent at that spot. That's
what we need, yes, talent.
Exactly. And then next year, do the same thing pretty much because you're going to have multiple first-round picks next year, hopefully. You're going to have multiple first-round picks the year after that, hopefully, depending on how far back you go down. It's just they have a lot of spots to fill, and this roster desperately needs talent. Desperately. The only, and I'll agree, the last draft was good. The only real miss so far is Velus Jones. Yeah. We haven't really seen too much of him positively to make an assessment, but so far not so good. I'm kind of backing off the Claypool trade a little bit. I didn't like it at first, but looking at what the free agency looks like now, and even the draft, where really the only 2 wide receivers I would want worth taking in the first round to me personally would be JSN or the ceiling of Quentin Johnston. Those, I hear a lot about Jordan Addison, but I'm just not a big Jordan Addison guy, I guess. I've been watching a lot of stuff on him. I would probably take JSN over him than Quentin Johnston.
Oh, for sure. Personally. JSN's the best wide receiver. I hope those guys get picked before him, but he's the best wide receiver. Yeah, but the tags kind of kicked us in the nuts again. We just can't catch a break. And I wouldn't say Orlando Brown Jr. is my favorite, but I just have a feeling that is who we will be signing.
Well, Kansas City did say that just because they didn't tag him doesn't mean anything. They still want him back. So they can always rework a deal with Orlando Brown. It just depends on, since he played on the tag last year.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he played on the tag last year. So that's why they didn't want to tag him again. So they'll probably end up reworking a deal at some point. I would say Kansas City's probably the number 1 landing spot for him. But Ryan Poles, man, my voice. Ryan Poles made a couple of comments. He's been making the media rounds with Matt Eberflus. They've been great. I don't know if you've watched any of the interviews, especially on Pardon My Take. Matt Eberflus, to me, he seems like he's one of the coolest guys in the room. He just seemed, I was so worried, not really worried. I was uncertain about what kind of dude he would be. He seems like a fun guy. And Ryan Poles, they just seem like they seem like they gel. But he made some comments in a couple of interviews talking about smart spending in the offseason. Just because they have all this money to spend doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go out and sign every big name free agent, which you and I both kind of talked about a little bit. We didn't think that was necessarily going to be the case. Maybe fill a couple of holes at a couple of premier positions. But overall, he doesn't want to take all that money and just spend it because he has it. Now, I talked about it being a longer rebuild, 3-4 year rebuild, possibly competing for 7, 8, 9 wins next year. in your opinion, what does Ryan Poles need to spend his money on this offseason? How much does he need to spend in this offseason before we can start talking about competing?
Well, I would say he has to spend a good amount if we're going to have to compete. I guess we'll see some of these cuts that are coming up. Maybe we get the benefit of somebody the Saints have to get rid of, Khalil Mack. I mean, maybe
He was interested in coming back.
DeForest Buckner might get cut, I was hearing. So we'll see. I don't want it to be a 3 or 4 year rebuild. Just looking at free agency and in this draft, it'll probably be a 2 year. We'll just have to. Well, I guess it's this year too. I don't know. I would say like this year might just be a wash. I think this year will be all on Justin. If he took another step, then hey, we could be contenders if we put together a patchwork. I'm not contenders for the Super Bowl, but to make the playoffs. If we put together a patchwork defense, you know what I mean, who could get some stops, get a little bit of pass rush, maybe we can put together something like the Jags had last year and sneak our way into the playoffs or fall a game short. But yeah, just for contention, yeah, it feels like we're at least one more season away this season. I don't see unless somebody crazy gets cut or we trade for somebody nuts where we can just leapfrog the 49ers or anybody like that.
Yeah, I just hearing Ryan Poole speak, and I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me say it because I've been beating it like a dead drum. Ryan Poles, the way he carries himself and the way he talks, just seems like he's more of a guy that wants to build a team through the draft and not through free agency. Obviously, he has holes that do need to be addressed, and you're going to have to sign free agents in order to do that, especially on that defense. But he comes from the Kansas City patchwork and he's worked with some really great people in Kansas City throughout his years there. The last couple of years, obviously, being Andy Reid as well, before he came over to the Chicago Bears. Andy Reid has always built his teams from the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. So I would expect a lot of offense and defensive line drafting, especially in the later rounds, because it took Philly years to build that offensive line. I mean, you got Kelsey and Johnson, two Hall of Famers, which not every team's going to get. But at the same time, he was an offensive lineman himself. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and the confidence that he knows how to scout offensive linemen. Obviously, he kind of does already when you take a look at what Braxton Jones was able to do for being a 5th-round rookie this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's impressive, and not a lot of people saw that coming. Ryan Poles had the wherewithal and the knowledge to see what he brought to the table, and he was able to be very successful at that position. And that's tough for any 5th-round rookie to even see the field, let alone play the entire season and be one of the best rated at your position.
Yes, it was a pleasant surprise.
So one of the guys that got tagged, non-exclusive, was Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
This, to me, I feel like, and we talked about it a little bit earlier today, discussing our notes, going over some stuff for the podcast, how I felt that this might actually affect the Bears trading the number 1 overall pick. Do you see it affecting it at all?
No, because I think that we're in talks with like the Colts and the Texans. I don't think either of them are in on Lamar for whatever reason. I don't know why they wouldn't be, but they haven't been. I think they might just be locked in on getting the Bears pick. I mean, getting the number 1 overall pick is just considerably cheaper than getting Lamar. Like you're gonna have to give up 2 firsts to get Lamar. You know what I mean, and then pay him $250 million guaranteed at least. And that's a big hit instead of giving the Bears 2 firsts and then having a rookie who's you might think is better than Lamar, going to be better than Lamar, and have all your cap space. Because you're going to have to give up almost the same amount of draft capital to get Lamar 2 firsts. The Bears are going to have to give up 2 firsts, maybe a 2025 first or second or something. I mean, slightly more, a little bit more, but you also don't have to pay that $200 million.
But at the same time, that non-exclusive tag. So if Lamar Jackson does sign an offer sheet, Baltimore has the right to match that. And then they can tell that team, we'll trade him to you, but we want more than the 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
So realistically, it could come cheaper, it could not come cheaper. It just all depends on the negotiating tactics between Baltimore and whatever team decides to sign him to an offer sheet. I felt like it was going to affect it because, yeah, a lot of teams came out and said, we're not going to be in the running for Lamar Jackson. We're not going to be in the running for Lamar Jackson. I'm going to call bullshit. Only because who wouldn't want a 26-year-old former MVP? Yeah, he's had some injuries, and it seems like he's a me guy instead of team guy. But realistically, in today's NFL, that carries a lot of weight. I mean, just take a look at what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets right now. The Jets want Aaron Rodgers really bad. Aaron Rodgers had a bad season last year. Granted, he's one of the greatest of all time, but he's 2 years removed from an MVP season. You don't get 26-year-old former MVPs available on the market very often. So for 5 teams to say that they don't want him or they're not going to pursue him, I think is bullshit. I think they're just kind of playing it coy right now. But I think it does affect the Bears because of a team like Vegas or Carolina or even Tennessee pursue Lamar Jackson. Those are all teams that have been linked to the Bears for the #1 overall pick. They're going to have to pay a lot more to get the #1 overall pick, but those are teams also that have been linked to the Bears for the #1 overall pick. So unless it's settled, until it's settled, I don't know if any team in that 7 to 12 range is going to jump up and be like, yeah, I'll take the #1 overall pick for 3 firsts.
I mean, either way, let's say the Ravens do trade the Raiders, like they're going to want to move up to 1, and they just got all the stuff we want. So it's like, I don't think it'll hurt us because even if they do, the Ravens trade Lamar to, let's say, the Falcons, and they have the 7th pick, or the Falcons 7, right? You said, or 9 or 8. Let's say they trade them to the Falcons, they get 8 in the next first. If they want to move up to 4, they're gonna have to give us 8 in the next. You know what I mean? Like, or to 2, they're gonna have to give us 8 in the next first because I mean they're gonna be in the market for a quarterback too. So, and they're not just gonna want to roll out there with Tyler Huntley. So they'll want.
I guess that makes sense.
They'll want Richardson, or they'll want. I mean, their team's set up to take on Richardson right now. Just plop him right in and just say, hey, we'll do like you do Lamar. We'll throw it the bare minimum, and it's, you know what I mean, we'll put you in easy passing situations. So I don't think it's going to hurt us that much. It's a very interesting, like you said, situation, like you said, 26-year-old MVP quarterback. That just don't happen. You know what I mean? Like Kyler is a little above average, and they were ready to lock him up. Like if you just show the flashes. We were kind of talking about this earlier where you said it was maybe a little bit of collusion from the owners saying like, hey, we're trying to put a stop to this. And I kind of agreed with you, but not in a like, we're trying to fuck over Lamar thing necessarily. He's just unfortunately going to be the martyr for this situation. Yeah. It's really because the Browns signed Deshaun Watson to that ridiculous deal, and they don't want that to be the new precedent in the league. Like we were talking about earlier, normally any other position, like, once somebody gets a contract, that's the contract. That's what you get. And the NFL owners are going to fight back hard and stop this quarterback once, because it's going to be really hard to build your team if the price of quarterbacks is 200 plus guaranteed million. You know what I mean? $50 million a year. Like, they're going to have to up the cap. I always thought they should have. I think maybe they should lower the cap and then take the quarterback salary out or something. You know what I mean? Lower it by 20%. And take the salaries, or the quarterback salary only counts towards 50%. I don't know, but it puts this weird imbalance where like it's just a huge advantage if you could somehow swing a rookie quarterback who's really fucking good, and then you make him happy and say, hey, we'll extend you right now, but for the last 2 years of the contract, you're not gonna be getting shit. We'll pay you $50 million in 4 years from now, and then you build a super team and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that you kind of look at, let's take a look, perfect example, the New York Giants. They signed Danny Dimes 4 years, $160 million. The first 2 years of that deal comes with $82 million guaranteed. So realistically, when you look at it, it's more like a 2-year for $82 million deal. They're not really, they don't need to keep them past that second year. They can cut them with very little penalty against them, against the cap, whatever. But if you sign a quarterback like Danny Dimes, who's average at best, to a $40+ million a year contract, and now you're going to pay your running back $15 million a year. Where does that? They had no wide receivers last year. Where does that leave the money? What are they going to do? Take a look at Green Bay now. Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers, who is making 59 million against the cap this year. And you take a look at a team like the Saints, who Michael Thomas, do you know what Michael Thomas's cap hit is this year for the Saints?
I thought, no, I thought next year it's like 59 or something, right?
No, it's this year coming
Oh,
up. $59 million.
oh yeah, that's why he's getting cut though at the end of the year. All
Well,
right. But they have to wait till
if they keep him, it's like $19 million or something like that. If they cut him, it's like $29 million.
I think that's if they cut him before June 1st or something. I think after June 1st they can cut him. And
teams, what I think they're outsmarting themselves. They're trying to get creative with the cap, and then a couple years down the road, it's like How I Met Your Mother, where it's a problem for future Ted, and
I wrote that down. Well, I didn't write the How I Met Your Mother down part, but I thought I wrote down the Saints are running some kind of like salary cap Ponzi scheme that it makes no sense. You're like, I thought there was a salary cap, so all this could happen, and every year you're just like, Saints signed somebody to a $200 million 5-year contract, and it's like, yeah, we restructured 10 guys, and all the money is like, it's like, what are they going to? Are they selling the team? Are they going to fucking file bankruptcy or some shit? Like,
they're converting it all to signing bonuses. I heard Nick Wright say the same thing about the Ponzi scheme thing, and it's true because the Saints are, ever since Drew Brees retired. How were they where did they come? They were $59 million over the cap. Where did they come up with the money to sign Derek Carr? Like, how was that even possible? They're gonna cut Jameis, so now they'll be like 40 million over the cap or whatever. But how are they able to, I don't understand. I'm not a numbers guy. That's why I'm not here, or that's why I'm not sitting in a high chair, running a team. That's why I'm in this computer chair having a podcast with you. I don't get it. That shit is insane.
Yeah, so I don't get it either.
They're good with money, apparently, or they're just really, really good schmucks. Like, I don't.
Well, they're all lawyers, so there's finesse in the system, finding the fine print.
Well, since we have a little bit of money, I did want to talk to you about a couple things because we had talked about a possible Darnell Mooney extension and a possible Cole Kmet extension. I gave you the numbers on what a Mooney extension would cost. You still want to do it?
At this point, I would just have to see how the season played out. I mean, if we get somebody else, probably not. I mean, I think him and Claypool this season will be playing for an extension. We're only going to extend one of them, I'm guessing, unless they both just ball out. So I'd say we let it play out and see who plays better, Claypool or Mooney, and we give the winner the extension. But Mooney just doesn't like. I like him. Yes, he's a nice kid. I just feel like we could get somebody who does what he does. I don't feel like if we lose Mooney, we're losing something we can never get back. I feel like that's something we could get back in the next draft in the second round, or in free agency and be unhappy. There's a Mooney in the free agency all the time.
He's a really good number 3. I've always
said he's an okay number 2. I think he'll be a really good 3. I think he's fine at 2. I just think there's a lot of wide receivers. There's a lot of talented wide receivers in the NFL. There's an abundance of number 2 wide receivers, borderline number 2, 3s.
That's true, but you also don't want to run into a situation like the Bears did this year, where who were your wide receivers?
They were trying to lose on purpose. That's what it was.
Oh, I know, but at the same time, you talked about loyalty. You've always talked about loyalty. So do you think maybe people would be a little bit kind of not disgusted in a way, but kind of turned off at the fact that the Bears wouldn't extend who many would consider their best offensive player minus Justin Fields at a premier position?
If it was up right now, then I'd say yeah. But like I said, I think we got to let him play it out. He was hurt. He didn't play up to what he normally or what he did the previous year. And I don't think Bears fans are going to be upset if we let Darnell Mooney go.
What about Cole Kmet?
Yeah, I think they should extend Cole Kmet. I think he has earned it. He showed that there's a place for him in this offense, that he will block. At worst case, At worst case scenario, he could just be our tight end number 2. We go get a receiving tight end, but he can block. He can catch passes. He's a good football player. I'm sure he'll play special teams if he's not already out there. I don't know if he is, but I'm sure he would. But I do think Cole Kmet has earned his contract. Mooney got hurt, and Kmet's just going to be a lot cheaper too than his. And he's from Chicago or the Chicagoland area, so he'll probably take a discount. And like I said, I don't know if Mooney's going to be trying to give us any kind of breaks.
So for a tight end too, do you want them to go get Mike Gesicki, or do you want them to? Because any of
Free
the good
agency
tight
right
ends,
now?
huh?
I was just saying, like, is Gesicki a free agent right now?
Yeah, he's a free agent this year.
I don't know necessarily. Like I said, I think he's good enough to play the one. I would prefer somebody better. I'm just saying, like, at worst case, his floor is he could be a nice tight end too.
We need. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I do think we do need a tight end. I don't really like a lot of the ones in free agency now. I like Devin Ingram, but he got tagged.
Yeah.
There's a couple on my scout list that I like. That would be good fits. I think if we don't, though, like you were talking about earlier, the wide receiver class is kind of whack. If we don't end up with JSN or Quentin Johnson, I'm hoping we just pull the trigger on one of these tight ends in the draft instead.
Well, I'm glad you brought up your prospect list. How about we transition to that a little bit?
Yeah, we could do that.
So the segment, Sean and I decided that we were going to write down, I have 10 prospects. I don't know how many you have, Sean. But we watched the combine. Sean's been obsessed with the combine since we were in high school. He watches more combine than anybody I know that's just a normal human being. So what we did was we came up with a list of prospects that we would like the Bears to draft, not necessarily in the first round, but in case some of the, Will Andersons and the Jalen Carters are taken, who would we want the Bears to take at certain positions? Sean, would you like to go first?
All right, I'll go. I got 10. I only have one that's like a no-brainer because I've been harping on this the whole time, and I think they really should make this a priority. I think this could help Justin take a next step. JSN, the wide receiver from Ohio State. I just think he's really good. He's better than those guys. I've been saying that from the beginning. He doesn't run as fast. He's not as tall, but he's just better than those guys.
He's the best route runner.
Yes. Then I had DN from Iowa, Lucas Van Ness. I think if we miss out, he might be somebody in the late first round. We could trade back up, maybe even somehow slide to the second round. We can get him. But I really like him. I think he would be a good fit in our defense as well. Cornerback DJ Turner from Michigan. I think he's really good. He ran a lot faster than I thought he would. He was a sub 4.4, and I think he's just really good. He's got ball skills. He can play in the slot. He can play out on wide. Not like I said, Bears need to be going best available, all these positions, and we got to stack up the talent, and then you figure it out later. You'll find spots to put these guys at. And then I got Jack Campbell from Iowa. Tom let me know he scored. He had one of the highest physical scores. That shocked me. I mean, I don't know what he talks shit, but that shocked me. I thought maybe he would slide to the second or third round, but with that score, I doubt it. Maybe the second round.
He's still got a round 2 grade right now, even after that showing at the combine.
So I think if he's there in the second round, I think we should take him. I think he's also a culture type of player who's a hard-nosed guy, who's not going to miss any games, who's going to set an example for other players to be like him and to be a leader in the locker room. And we are a really young team. We got Justin, but we lost our leaders, and some of these guys, we need somebody like that to come in and who's going to play for here for the next 5 or 10 years and set the tone. Nolan Smith, it's a D end out of Georgia. He tore his pec last year, so he didn't play a lot this year. He was in and out. He probably, if he would have came out last year and not torn his pec, he probably would have been a top 15 pick. He's coming off injury. He's not high on too many boards. I think he's climbing because he ran a sub 4.4 40, if I'm not mistaken, as an outside linebacker.
It was 4.38.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. I mean, if it was 4.48, that would have been ridiculous. So, like I said, we plan on falling back twice. I think if we're in the teens and he's there, I think we should take a long look at him. I think he's got a lot of potential. Then I got a wide receiver. The only one that I think like later in the draft we might be able to kick the tires on, it's Bryce Ford Wheaton from West Virginia. He kind of measured out like Metcalf. He's tall. He runs a sub 4 or like a 4.40. He looks like a physical specimen. It's just somebody to keep an eye on. You know what I mean? Not everybody's. There's a lot of guys who look like Metcalf or something like a freak. There's a lot of freaks at the combine, so it's not saying much. And then, like I was harping on before, tight ends, Michael Maher and Daryl Washington. I know you talked about Daryl Washington, the tight end from Georgia, and Maher is the tight end from Notre Dame. He had huge heat to start the year, but he ran a bad 40. I think it was 4.7. I'm sure he'll run better at his pro day, but I have a feeling his draft stock's going to slide. If he somehow falls to late first, early second, I would love to jump all over him. I think he's got Gronk potential. And Darnell Washington, I just think it's like a matchup nightmare. It concerns me that he was behind that kid, Brock Bowers, who I'm pretty sure is younger than him, smaller than him.
But Bowers is just...
I know, but he's smaller, slower, and you couldn't get in front of him. So I don't know I mean, that kid is a stud, but just make me think like where, you know what I mean, his head's not in it. But he is a matchup nightmare, and with the right coaching, maybe he can be elite. And then I have, to close it out, I have two defensive linemen from Michigan, Maisie Smith and Mike Morris, both interior. Mike Morris is a DN, but I'd say he's more of a 5 technique. He's more like a run-stopping DN. I think he'll be available in the 3rd, 4th round. And same with Maisie Smith. I think these guys are, again, culture guys, leaders. And like I said, I watch a lot of Michigan, so I watch these guys. And my last guy is also from Michigan, Alulu Watami, the center. I think he was a 5th-year senior, so he's a little older. I think that's why. I don't know why he's fallen down draft boards. To me, he was the lineman of the year. He played amazingly. But for whatever reason, he should be available in the 3rd, 4th round. And if we haven't already picked Schmaltz or signed one of the centers in free agency, I really think we should sign that kid because I think he is a smart guy. But that was the last one on mine.
Well, you do know your Michigan players, Michigan bias popping up a little bit for your 10 players there. The only note I have really is the Nolan Smith. You brought that name up. He is a freak athlete.
Yes.
But the only problem is you said he played outside linebacker. Anybody that Nolan Smith, of course, we're looking for edge rushers. I think he's probably a little too small to play defensive end.
But yeah, I just think you'll scheme it. He'll probably just come and rush the passer. So we won't have to worry about him getting bullied around the run game until he bulks up.
So like a Thibodeau type.
Yeah. Well, Thibodeau, I mean, I don't know, Thibodeau had a full game. I think it'd be a little, but I don't know. I don't know what the scheme would be. Like I said, I want to pick best available. And then once you get everybody in training camp and you finally got all your pieces, then you figure out where you're going to put these guys. Instead, I mean, so you want to pick for scheme, but when our team's so bad, you can't be picking for scheme. Not when we have these 1st-round picks and all these picks. We got to be picking these best guys. And then you might want to change your scheme. Like you might, you know what I mean? Oh, you know what I mean? On certain downs, we'll go 3-4 because we got 2 young guys who are more stand-up passers. Like I said, he might just stand up and pass rush on 3rd down, 2nd and long. You know what I mean? Every now and then. He won't just be in every down outside linebacker until he bulks up a little bit and he's ready to handle setting the edge.
All right, so I have a couple. I'm going to start off with the one I can't pronounce. I'm just going to call him AA. He is the defensive tackle from Northwestern.
Oh, yeah.
Really good showing in the combine. Really big kid. He's got all of the measurables to be a great 3 technique in the NFL. He's got really good hands. He's got quick feet, good burst off the line of scrimmage, which is very important, especially if you're a 3 technique. 3 techniques, for people that don't know too, and me as a defensive lineman, you see a lot of double teams if you're a 3 technique. So that's one thing that I always looked at in terms of watching tape is how well you can split the double. He does a pretty good job at that. I have a round 2 grade on him, so somebody to watch out for, especially if we pick up a extra 2nd round pick.
Yeah.
I've got Blake Freeland, offensive tackle from BYU. That kid that I saw playing, I watched tape on him a little bit. He's a little slow getting out of the stance on his backdrop for his pass rush. But other than that, he doesn't get overpowered, and there's not a lot of quickness around the edge against him. So he's very good at recovery. He's got good recovery speed. And he's got long arms, so he's able to kind of, push the defensive end away. I've got a round 2. I've got like a mid 2, early 3 round grade on him. I think that's somebody to look out for. Cedric Tillman, wide receiver from Tennessee. I have a 4th round grade on him because he had that torn ACL. So, of course, he's coming off a big injury. Plus, his teammate.
And 2
Jalen
players with a torn ACL?
Yeah.
The quarterback shores ACL, the hooker?
Hendon Hooker. his teammates getting a lot of love, Jalen Hyatt, because of the season that he had. So Jalen Hyatt's got a higher grade on him. But you've heard me harping on Jalen Hyatt. I think he's an overrated prospect. Again, he had 0 receptions against press man coverage, and you're going to see a lot of press man in the NFL. I don't think Jalen Hyatt's the answer there. Cedric Tillman, 6'3", 220. He didn't run in the combine. I'm sure he'll probably run in his pro day if that knee is healthy. So let's take a look at that. Right now, we've got a 4th round grade on him. Another wide receiver, Nathaniel Tank Dell out of Houston, did not have a good combine for the most part. He ran a little bit slower than anticipated, but if you watched him in the drills, the catching drills, what do they call it? They call it gauntlet. Is it the gauntlet?
Gauntlet, yeah.
Yeah. Very quick hips. He's got good hands, very soft hands. He lets the ball come to his hands. He doesn't chest catch it. He goes out and grabs it. It's fantastic. He's one to look out for. Of course, you said the obvious one, JSN.
Yeah.
If the Bears fall back to picks 8 through 12, I think JSN's the pick.
Yeah, I agree.
If the Bears don't think JSN is the pick, or maybe 8 through 12 is a little too high for them for JSN, and they still fall that way, I want them to take Tyree Wilson, edge from Texas Tech. That kid is we talked about him last week.
Yeah.
That kid is just an absolute monster. Steve Avila, interior offensive lineman from TCU, the Horned Frogs. I've got a mid-second, early 3rd round grade on him. He can play guard or center. He's a pretty good interior offensive lineman. He's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker, but a lot of kids coming out of college, I feel, are. Yeah. So you can always
especially interior linemen.
Yeah, you could definitely teach that a little bit. Kalijah Cansey. This was a name that has rocketed up the boards. He's the defensive tackle out of Pitt.
Yeah.
If they fall back further than 12, let's say they trade back for some reason and they got picked 15 through 20 or whatever, and Tyree Wilson's obviously going to be gone. JSN, the Packers said if he's available at 15, they're taking him. So if they trade back any further than that, I want them to take Kalijah Cansey. He's the defensive tackle out of Pitt. The kid is fast. He's quick. And for his size, he's a really big disruptor. I'm not going to throw Aaron Donald's name out there as a comparison because nobody compares to Aaron Donald, but he has the potential to be somebody who can change the game in the interior of the defensive line like Aaron Donald can. Finally, my last 2 picks, Chase Brown, running back out of Illinois. I've got a 5th round grade on him right now. He had a really, really, really poor Senior Bowl showing. He did a little bit better in his combine drills. He's not the fastest running back out there. He's not the quickest in terms of cuts, but I think of him as David Montgomery, but faster and better hands. I think that he's a one-cut back. He's pretty decisive in terms of ball carrying vision. He sees the hole, he hits the hole, and he's a really good receiving out of the backfield. And finally, you've heard me talk this guy up all week, Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama. If I had to choose, if the Bears were drafting a running back and we trade with Houston or we trade with Indy and we get the 2nd pick in the 2nd round or, the 4th pick in the 2nd round, I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs if he's there. I know it's an early pick for a running back, but you take a look at guys like Breece Hall and all these other guys lately that have been picked in the 2nd round of the draft. They usually turn out to be the best running backs in the league so far in terms of being young. And Jahmyr Gibbs just has measurables that compare to one of my favorite running backs of all time, Jamal Charles. I only say that because he was always on my fantasy teams and he always won me a bunch of leagues. But the kid runs a 4.33 40. He's got great hands. He's a solid blocker out of the backfield, pass blocker wise. That's the thing is that he doesn't get enough credit for being a pass blocker, especially being a small guy. He's only 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah, he's not too big.
But he's not a bad pass blocker either, and that's what impressed me the most was just watching tape on him. He picks up the blitzer very well. He may not, give a pancake block, but he's going to make sure that he distresses that rusher, that free rusher coming at the quarterback enough to where Justin Fields can make a move outside of the pocket and throw the ball. but Jahmyr Gibbs would be my number one running back. I have a late first, early second round grade on him. I would not be disappointed at all if the Chicago Bears went and drafted him.
Yeah, I think he'll
What
be
about you
nice.
guys? I mean,
It's just me. Yeah, I like a lot of those. Chase Brown, I agree. Depending, I think he would be a nice. Even if we do sign David Montgomery, get him, he'll be our third running back. That dude we had last year, Ebner, is weak. He sucks. I'm just saying he's getting the same blocking as Justin Fields, Montgomery, and Herbert. He was doing considerably worse than all of them. It's not like they're blocking worse when you're going out there, motherfucker. So he just wasn't seeing the holes. I like you said, I didn't know Chase Brown had a bad Senior Bowl, but he really popped on the field, like we were just talking about. My Michigan bias. I was watching that game beginning to end, and he was dragging us, and he looked like a quality NFL running back to me. He's definitely got the build. He's got the speed. You said he's got nice soft hands, so we'll be seeing. And I'm not opposed to the Bears getting a running back if he's going to be a playmaker. And Gibbs does have that potential. I think early in the second round is too high for me, though. I'd rather just keep Montgomery and take a nice young lineman.
Well, it's part of a factor cap too. We'll talk about the David Montgomery situation as well. There's a couple of things on there. But those are our top prospects. What about you guys? Let us know in the comment section who you think the Bears should draft. Give us your best prospects after watching the combine. Kind of just prove us wrong. Tell us we're dumb.
Or help us out. Yeah. No, don't. Yeah. Well, I'll definitely argue with you. Don't worry. If you want to argue with somebody in the comments, I got time. So if you got, I argue with Justin Fields haters religiously. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. There is some talent in this draft. I think there's a lot of defensive line talent, pass rushers, interior defensive linemen. I think there's some quality offensive linemen as well. Unfortunately, I think, I don't know about unfortunately, but I think we'll probably address most of our O-line woes in free agency just because we got to spend the money, and that's really the only thing out there to go get. So I think we'll end up with a tackle and maybe not a guard. I would bet money we get a tackle, McGlinchey, James, McGrary, or Orlando Brown Jr., and then like Ben Powers or that center. And then maybe we'll pick another lineman, an interior lineman. And then we're going to probably be going all D-line linebackers and shit like that. I hope they have Michael Maher and Darnell Washington on the board, maybe a little with stars next to him, because I think with Justin Fields, if they're not really just trying to make the jump to a spread passing offense, adding another tight end who's a mismatch nightmare would be, I guess, not too big.
A good tight end is a scrambling quarterback's best friend.
Yes, and he's the design runs will work a lot better. The RPOs, because then we'll just have favorable. Like, you can't put linebackers out there against some of those guys, and then if you put a corner out there, we're just going to run and he'll block them. So
yes,
that's what I'm thinking. If we can't get JSN, maybe Johnson. I don't know. I've kind of got my heart set on JSN. If we can't get JSN, I think we should switch focus to one of those tight ends and let the cards fall where they will.
Not in the top 10 of the draft, though.
Oh, no, definitely not. No. I meant like traded back up. Like,
oh, yeah.
Traded back up in the first round. Like I said, I don't really know if they would. I don't think they'll pick JSN in the top 10. I really don't. I think they should. I think JSN is the only pick they should. They don't go best player available. If he's there and it's close to where you have him ranked, like within 5 or 7 picks, I would say just take him. I think I always talk about culture and team stuff. I think that's Justin wants him. We know we need a number 1 wide receiver. He just fits all the things we need, and your quarterback wants him. So I say you show that, hey, I'll pick a guy a couple picks early and then get back to your strict. But again, we'll see. This also is all if we trade back and get a lot of picks. If that doesn't happen, then no, we can't do that. We got to pick best available. And wide receiver is, as much as we need one, it's just wide receiver. And it's not easy, but you're much more likely to hit on like a late round wide receiver or on somebody who could turn out to be something. And we don't need him to be Superman.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe you draft the next Marquise Colston in the 7th round.
Yeah, anyway, Colston, shit. Like I said, Metcalf was a second round pick, Pickens, second round pick. There's a lot of guys who were second round picks who were quality.
You ready for a little factor cap?
Do it.
All right, so with the news that Saquon Barkley was tagged along with Pollard and Jacobs, the running back free agent market is drying up quickly. Recent reports indicate that Montgomery is also not expected to return to Chicago. So I asked Factor Cap, the Chicago Bears need to invest draft capital in the position this offseason.
I would say Cap. I don't think they need to do it. I think they will. I think it might be smart. Like if the value's there, like I said, I like the guys we have now to be. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't a problem. That's like the only problem we didn't have. And I don't want to be like to put an emphasis on fixing a problem we didn't
have. I'm gonna say fact because if you go back to the very first episode of this podcast, one of the things that I said was Khalil Herbert is not a feature back in this league. And I stand by it. Yeah, he had a really good yards per clip, 5.2 yards per carry average. It's really, really, really good. One of the best in the league. But something about him and the way he carries that fucking football just really bothers me. I think he benefited a lot from having, maybe he does run the RPO a little bit better with Justin as opposed to David Montgomery. There's a little bit more of a threat with Khalil Herbert, but at the same time, I don't envision him as a running back one. He's a really good change of pace back as a running back too. But I really feel like if you have your guy, if you see somebody in the draft like a Jahmyr Gibbs, or even Bijan Robinson, though he's probably going to be picked early first round, somebody who is a playmaker that you can get at a very cheap deal, I think you absolutely take it. Maybe third rounds.
I would be okay with that. I just, like I said, I don't want to. It's not a priority. I don't think it should be a priority. I think if, like I said, the best player available, one of those guys falls, or you know what I mean, we get everybody we've done. I've always said I don't think we get out of this draft without taking a running back to either be Herbert's backup or to be running back number 3. Because, like I said, Ebner is not it, and he's not very quality special teams player.
No, De'Arrington Evans was a lot better than Ebner
yes,
was.
He was much better, and he was okay. Yeah,
and he played, the last couple of games of the season. Number 2, Orlando Brown Jr. and Jawan James were not tagged, though reports indicate that Kansas City wants Brown back. I asked Factor Cap, the Bears should forget about Brown and shift their focus to either McGlinchey or James in free agency.
I'll say Cap. I don't think they should forget about Brown. Like I said, I think it should be an option. Like I said earlier, I just think we'll end up with him just because he'll be the highest touted one, and we got to give somebody the bag. But I do think, in my head, I said McGlinchey's a priority. You kind of swayed me with James. I didn't know all the non-injury stuff about him. That kind of intrigues me. I do like healthy players. I just think it builds chemistry and camaraderie when, these guys are always going to play. These guys are cornerstones of our team. These guys don't sit out of the game.
Well, yeah, because, it's important. You've noticed the last couple of years, the Bears have thrown out hundreds of different combinations of offensive linemen, it seems like, because nobody could stay healthy. Even our best offensive lineman last year, besides Braxton Jones, obviously, but Tevin Jenkins was injured a lot. He's been injured a lot. You're hoping he can stay healthy. He came in
injured, right? Sure, he's never been healthy.
You want these guys to be healthy, and it builds that chemistry on the offensive line. Just being together as a unit, playing a full 17 games. Obviously, you can't really expect 5 offensive linemen on the same team to play all 17 games.
Yeah.
But the more games
you want the tackles to be out there. Honestly, that's just what it is. It's not just the O-line. It's for Justin, too. It's for your team to know, you know what I mean? I know I'm off the line, but they're the lifeblood of the team. And, when your guys are out, it's not some third stringer out there who doesn't play. It's those are the most important guys for the offense. And it's outside of the quarterback. And, you know what I mean? And sometimes even more important, it's when you have the same 2 guys, 3, 4, 5 guys, you said it builds confidence to the team. They know, when you insert one guy, like you said, they're not every week. We're not gonna all play all 17 games, but it's when 4 of the 5 there, and every once in a while we got to sub some guy in to fill a hole. It's just breeds confidence for the team. So, like I said, the Juwan James thing kind of swayed me. I am interested in a cornerstone tackle. He said him and Braxton Jones are going to go out there and be healthy. Yeah, sometimes they're not the best, but consistency and chemistry is much more important on the offensive line and trust and all of that. And I think that's more of the Bears' problem. They don't have coaching. They don't have the culture for it. And they never keep guys long enough to build any kind of camaraderie. Like they suck really bad. And then we just get on this fucking carousel where we're just mixing and matching guys. Like I feel like our whole career is like Olin Kreutz. I know you're talking about him. It's like he was all right. He was just a tough guy who played every game for the fucking Bears. Like he wasn't the best center in the league.
Yes, he was
at some point, but like not his whole career.
Olin Kreutz is a future Hall of Famer.
That is it. Like, you could be a future Hall of Famer and not have been the best center in the league. He just played a really long career.
I think if you're a Hall of Famer, you have to be considered one of the best at your position for a certain period of time in the league. I don't think you really. I
think it's a longevity award for the most part.
And
a sort like
Olin Kreutz was pretty damn good.
I'm not saying he sucked. I'm just saying I think he was just on our team for a long time and we built chemistry, and that's why our O-line was good, not because of anyone's individual ability. He became the leader.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. He kind of kept.
I don't think he was sucked, but he was more of a mauler. But like I said, when you get all the play together, we all look good, and when the center's the leader, he'll get the recognition, and I think he set the tone for the team. And I think we need more guys like that.
And I told you this report earlier. That's why I like the fact that the Bears' offensive line as a unit is actually working out with Olin Kreutz right now at his training facility. I think that's awesome. We talked about this one a little bit earlier, so this one will be quick. So Lamar Jackson was tagged with a non-exclusive tag. The franchise, it appears they're still far apart from a deal. Teams have come out and said that they will not pursue the former MVP even while being quarterback needy. So I asked Factor Cap, the Lamar Jackson news will hinder Chicago's ability to trade the #1 overall pick until the issue is done.
I'll say Cap, like I said earlier. I don't think it's going to hinder us. I'm sure it's a small hiccup. Maybe one or two teams who are in on it might back off. But like I said, I thought for the #1 pick, we're trading it to Houston or Indy. I don't think this scares either of them away. For maybe our second trade back, maybe, I guess, but I don't think Houston or Indy is in on Lamar. I don't know why. Maybe they are, but they're just keeping it quiet. There just hasn't been any rumblings. I think they should be. I'm not talking shit about Lamar, but I just don't think that's really going to stop us from trading our pick to Houston or to Indy.
I'm kind of on the fence about it. I don't know anymore with this. Like, it's such a weird situation and such a weird scenario.
It is. There's never been anything like this where an MVP 25?
26.
It's 26. Is he 20? This was his 5th year? Yeah, 26 or 4th year. Damn, yeah, there's never been anything like that. I can't think. Yeah, who's the best free agent, like actual free agent quarterback? Because that's basically what the non-exclusive tag is. I mean, they can match it, but he can go anywhere. Like he's on the open market. Like the fucking an MVP quarterback never goes in the open market.
No, not at 26.
Yeah, at 32, they were like, all right, go find 3 teams we'll trade you to, like something like that. But never like, hey, just go find whatever the fuck you want.
It's insane.
I do think, like, I don't know if collusion is the word, but it also is I think it's a good tactic for Baltimore too, because they're like, fine, go out there, you tell us, like, let everybody else tell us what you're worth then if we're wrong, and then we'll just fucking match it. If everybody's saying they'll give you $50 million and $300 guaranteed, I guess we just have to match it. Like, but if nobody else is willing to give you that, then why the fuck will we do it?
Exactly.
This was weird for Baltimore for me because they have a rep of being really player loyal. Like no player ever badmouths the Baltimore organization. That's just not normally something they have happen. I think Lamar backed himself in the corner by not playing this year. I think he really would have put pressure on them if he would have went out there and played a little hurt. I mean, and won a couple more games, and then he would have just fully had the fan base behind him. But half the fan base is torn. They're mad that he didn't play in those games. They really are. Even if he was hurt, that's just life. Like, you know what I mean? The player, like, to this day, Bears players have to defend Jay Cutler, and his fucking knee was torn to shreds, and he played a half with it fucked up. And to this day, I know like people in person who are like, I hate Jay Cutler for sitting out that game. Like, seriously hate him. Like, why couldn't he just finish it? Like, and like I've seen Brian Urlacher on multiple occasions defend Jay Cutler. Like, he was actually hurt. Like, and I'd be the first fucking person to come up here and say, like, I have no, you know what I mean, allegiance to him. So I think Lamar kind of it's hard for me to tell you, like, oh, go put your body at risk and you're going to get hurt and lose all the money. But sports is a gamble. And I think if the city would have been rallied behind him, if he went out there, and let's say you still lose to Joe Burrow, but you lose, you play a good game and you lost, who cares? But you fall for your team. They're a bad team too. He carries them. They're better than the Bears, but there's still no wide receivers. You know what I mean? A slightly above average O-line, fucking patchwork running backs, and their defense was hurt to shit. So it's like, I think he kind of did himself a disservice. I know he didn't want to. I know he wanted to kind of be the diva and be like, oh, I'm like these other quarterbacks. But if I was him, I would have went out there, won, you know what I mean, tried to beat Joe Burrow in that playoff game and go shot for shot with him and been like, okay, you fucking owe me. And that would have shown all the other teams too, I think. And the other teams wouldn't be as hesitant either. I think even in the back of my, I think he sat out of games he could have played in. Based on everything that's unfolding right now. I'm not saying every single game he wasn't hurt. I'm sure some of them he was too hurt to play, but he missed like 7. I just think 2 or 3 of them he could have played. If they would have signed him, he would have played. And
I agree.
And he didn't. And that's his right to do whatever the fuck you want. I'm just saying, like, that's what everybody's thinking. And I'm sure the fans are thinking that too. And if you don't got them behind you pressuring the front office to do that, they feel liberated enough to be like, fine, the fans aren't that mad. You know what I mean? We're the Ravens. We'll be okay. We'll find somebody else. We got a great organization. And I do think, though, that is one of the few places where they can feel confident that, like, fine, we'll get another quarterback. We'll get Jimmy G for a couple of years. We'll be all right. They weren't going to win the Super Bowl with Lamar anyway, sadly.
All right, so the Chicago Bulls continue to suck. They keep losing their way to try for that play-in spot, but let's just face it, it's not going to happen. Zach LaVine has been on a tear, though, recently scoring. However, it has not translated to wins, which is more important. So I ask Factor Cap, Zach LaVine's contract will go down as the worst signing in franchise history.
Yeah, I'll say facts. I don't care what kind of tear he goes on at this point. He's just not it. I don't know. He just doesn't have he doesn't play with the energy, it feels like to me. The game's on right now. Actually, I'll probably watch it after we're done with this. But he just doesn't play with any intensity. He's not a two-way player. He's not a playmaker. He's just like he's got range. He does. He could get buckets. He gets to attack the basket, but that's just really it. He doesn't really play winning basketball. And I just think he'd be much better as like a 2 to like LeBron or somebody, like a team where like he had to like shoulder any of the burden and just go out there and ball. But I don't even think he doesn't even know that about himself because he was fucking pouting when DeMar was cooking.
But they were playing better as a cohesive unit
with Lonzo there.
Was number 2 behind DeMar, and when Lonzo was able to distribute the basketball.
Lonzo's a pure point guard who probably could feel it. Like I could see it myself. You know what I mean? I don't want me to be a guru, but like I could just see him out there. He's not playing on energy. I know he's mad because he ain't getting the ball. Lonzo knew that, so he knew like, all right, I'm gonna keep it away from DeMar this next couple of plays. We're gonna let LaVine get off so he doesn't get in the mood and he feels involved. And I think DeMar doesn't have that in his head. When he's going, like he's like, can't nobody stop me. And I'm not passing the ball to Zach LaVine. Who is he? You know what I mean, DeMar is a borderline Hall of Famer. Zach LaVine, like you said, is gonna go down one of the worst signings ever. Like, so the Zach LaVine is just very disappointing. When we started this, I said I've always harped they shouldn't have signed him.
They had a statistic on ESPN radio today on the Waddle and Sylvie show where they were talking about Zach LaVine in terms of an NBA player with 500 games played has a career win percentage of .384, which is the worst in the NBA, like active player wise.
Well, who have a max?
No,
just worst in general.
Yes, with 500 games played.
That's
Yes.
ridiculous.
Yes.
Wow, I'm gonna look
And
that up.
here's another fun fact. Nikola Vujicic, number 7 on that list. So if you have two players who career win percentage wise, granted, Vucevic was on bad Orlando Magic teams, but you have two players that are, two of your big three players have career percentage, career winning percentage less than 400. What did you expect? It's just,
The 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 Vucevic trade is going to go down as one of the worst trades the team's ever done, if not the worst trade.
yep.
And LaVine is most definitely the worst signing they've ever had. It's not even close. The Bulls don't ever do business like this. They don't never give nobody the bag. I always thought they should have signed and traded him. Like, I think he fit in well on Dallas. I think fuck if that's what they were giving up for Kyrie, they probably could have got the same thing for LaVine, and I would have took fucking Dorius Finney-Smith and fucking all them picks for fucking Zach LaVine. He is cheeks. Like he's kids. It's disappointing.
Last one. Mike Clevenger's MLB investigation is officially over. The MLB and the MLBPA not finding enough evidence, as well as the police not being able to find enough evidence. Charges have been dropped completely in all facets of the case. So I ask, Factor Cap, with this news, Clevenger cemented himself as the 5th starter in the rotation.
I would say fact. I think he did already. I mean, a lot of these cases too, we talked about it before, and I don't want to harp too much on it because I don't know too much, and I'll be the first to admit that these are weird things where so I know it's touchy. If it was my sister, I'd be pissed, but it's not my sister, so I don't care. And I can admit that. But if all the charges are dropped, why not? I mean, you need very small proof in a lot of these things like that for them to at least take you to trial. They didn't even go through any of it, which makes me think that it's all he said, she said, and maybe he did it. I will say I don't care if he did it or not. She's not dead. His baby's fine. Nobody's seriously injured. I don't care about their fucking marital problems. So that's what I meant. So yes, he could play baseball. If the police don't find him guilty, I want this in all of sports. If the police do an investigation and don't find them guilty, I think that sports should stay out of it. I'm all for, hey, you get a ticket and it was only a speeding ticket and we're still going to suspend you because it's bad image. But if they get found innocent in a court of law, who are you? That really annoys me when we're playing the morality police, because it's how you feel that day or the mood of the society in that moment where you're going to make this decision. And like I said, if let's say he got a slap on the wrist from the police and he didn't go to jail, but they just gave him court supervision or something, and then you still wanted to suspend him 50 games, I'm all for that. If he got found guilty, he did it, but he got some bullshit, I'm rich sentencing and got off easy, I'm all for it if he was guilty and there was proof that he did something. But to say that's giving some young lady too much power to be all right, well, if you don't do exactly what I say, I'm just going to say you did something to me. And even if they don't find any proof, I'm not going to get in any trouble. I'm going to leave scot-free and your life's going to be ruined. I don't think that's fair. And it sucks that it's a weird he said, she said, but that gives people too much power. And girls are evil just like dudes are. They will use whatever they can to get ahead in life, just like some dude would do.
Yeah, I'm going to say facts. They signed him to be the 5th starter. There was a little bit of a hindrance with this. But now that everything's clear, like you said, if he's cleared by the police and he's cleared by MLB's own investigation, I don't see an issue with it. I mean, that's just that. That's now that it's done and over with, and now it's done and over with.
Yes, it's done and over with, leaving the past in the past. And like I said, let's play. It's about baseball. Yes, I don't care. If these guys we got accused of the XYZ or, you know what I mean? He fucking supports Trump or whatever they're doing in their private life. Let's play baseball. Let's focus on that instead of focus on what the hell people are doing with their significant others.
100% agree. I mean, that's all I have.
All right. Yeah, we can do Guess the Bear next week with Adam.
Yeah.
David. All right. Well, that was a good episode. Ran a little longer than I wanted, but we had a lot to talk about. It's draft time. Hopefully you guys all tune in. If you made it this far, please follow, share, comment your prospects, what we should talk about in the future. If I'm talking too much, anything. If the audio is good, let us know. But, all right. I'll see you tomorrow, buddy.
All right. See ya.